want to actually get into reporting on an actual event that's happening in our world. Now, to do that, however, we have to give a little bit of background in terms of how we're going to be reporting. So, as we have said, this is not simply about reporting the facts of what's happening in the world, but to get at the context that underlies the facts. So we're going to be introducing something in this segment which is called the language, context, situation cascade. That's right. Now, again, when you're dealing with context news, you've got to be able to deal with context. It is a bit abstract, and so we're going to build a model that gets the connection between language, context, and the situation. The situation we are going to be dealing with this evening is the environment, and specifically climate change. Here's how it works. What you've got in front of you, what we've got in front of us, is this particular situation called climate change. Now, there's two aspects of the situation. One is the facts. That's absolutely just simply the facts called, okay, this is the temperature right now. This was the temperature last year. This was the temperature the year before. Just the facts, facts, facts in terms of climate change. What is actually happening? The facts. No assessment, no significance, no meaning, no becauses, no whys. Simply, this is what is so, this is what's happening. Then there's how the facts are there for us. The actions that people are taking regarding a situation, and the ways that they think, and the ways that they strategize, and the ways that they operate and relate to a particular situation are not as a function of the facts themselves, but a function of how the facts are there for them. So the two aspects of a situation are the facts and how the facts are there for you. So the facts of climate change might be there for us as insurmountable. The facts of climate change might be there for us as not that big a deal. The facts of climate change might be there for us as, geez, something I'd love to do something about, but it's just too big, whatever it is. But it's however it is that the facts are there for us is also part of the situation. Then you've got the context. Now the context is what's actually surrounding the facts and gives how the facts are there. So very, very, very critical, because the context is going to be determining the ways of thinking and acting that you're bringing to the situation and your whole relationship to the facts. Then what you've got is language, and context comes from language, comes from actually things that got said. Something got said, it brought into existence a context, and now the context is shaping how the facts that are currently happening are there for you and giving you how you relate to those facts and the actions that you take or don't take regarding those facts. So that is the language, context, situation cascade. Let's go back to the Indians. And I'm saying the Indians, not Native Americans, because this was at a time before America was created, and so there was no America to be a native of, and so this is what the Indians said. The earth does not belong to man. Man belongs to the earth. This we know. All things are connected, like the blood which unites one family. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons of the earth. Man did not weave the web of life. He is merely a strand in it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself. And that was the language that the Indians lived in. Again, we're not here to make judgment or that was right, wrong, or anything like that, but we're here to get the logic of the connection between the language, the context, and the actions that were taken. So back in the days when that was said, the earth really did live in a context of part of us. And the Indians even named themselves Running Bear and names like that because they were of the earth. The earth was revered. The actions that they took, their relationship to it was one of reverence. It was their mother. And the actions they took were completely consistent with that by virtue of how the environment, how the earth was there for them inside the context that was created by that kind of language. Then what happened was the Europeans came over to what this was that later became America, they did not have that language that the Indians did. The earth did not live for them as their mother. The earth lived for them as a commodity, something that could be bought and sold. So, there's that story that the Manhattan was purchased for $24 worth of trinkets. Well, it didn't happen because for the Indians, there was no purchasing of land possible. It didn't exist. The earth was their mother. You wouldn't buy and sell your mother. So that was a big shift in terms of the context and how there was a different relationship to the planet. Then the Industrial Revolution came along and the language shifted again. And now not only was the earth something that could be bought and sold as a commodity, something that lived in the context of commerce, but it was now something that was simply there for our use and profit. It was simply a well of natural resources to be mined, to be drilled. And it was ours, and we owned it, and we could drill it, and we could do anything we wanted with it because it was simply ours, all by virtue of context. The way in which the earth is related to and the actions that are taken in the way that it's related to are always consistent with the logic, whether it was the context that was there by virtue of the language of the Indians, or whether it's the context that's there by virtue of the language of the Industrial Revolution. But the logic is the same. Some facts, okay, just some facts to deal with here, and simply some facts. The rate of warming is increasing. The 20th century's last 2 decades were the hottest in 400 years. The United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reports that 11 of the past 12 years are among the dozen warmest since 1850. Humans are pouring carbon dioxide into the atmosphere much faster than plants and oceans can absorb it. If present trends continue, 1/2 of all species of life on Earth will be extinct in less than 100 years. What there is to report, what the news is in terms of this segment is that there is no global, comprehensive plan and commitment to reduce greenhouse gases in time. The intent of the Kyoto Protocol was to reduce greenhouse emissions by 2012 to 5% below 1990 emissions levels. Instead of reducing them to 5% below 1990 emission levels, what happened was there was an increase to 58% more. Doesn't mean that significant progress hasn't been made, doesn't mean that commitments haven't been made, doesn't mean that actions aren't being taken, they are. But in terms of a global, comprehensive plan in which all nations have committed to specific results that, if those results happen, will reduce greenhouse emissions quick enough, there is none in place. The context in which the environment currently lives, the context in which the situation called climate change currently lives, is insufficient to handle the problem. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Buckminster Fuller, one of the great thinkers of our time. Then Robert Engelman, president of World Watch Institute in State of the World 2013, Is Sustainability Still Possible? Report. Simply doing better environmentally will not stop the unraveling of ecological relationships that we depend on for food and health. Vastly larger changes are needed than we have seen so far. And lastly, Albert Einstein. The significant problems we have cannot be solved at the same level of thinking with which we created them. The context that got us into this situation is not the context that's going to get us out of it. Richard Rorty said, "A talent for speaking differently rather than arguing well, is the chief instrument of cultural change. So we've got to get this whole environmental issue out of the debate stage and into the action stage in a context of workability. What is it actually going to take to handle the situation? And that's that.